Yeah, so a soul is born. Don't know onto which. Okay, this is the fall. This is the down part. Don't know onto which level it's born. Like I don't know if it's possible to give birth like that a soul is born a rishi soul and then descends and then either ascends again or descends all the way down. That's the part I don't know. But what is clear, what has become is becoming clear, is that there is this family tree, or the collective. Let's put it this way better: collective tree of light, of souls, how they are connected. I just explained that. And here's an image to that. And the only part about this sketch that is wrong is that I wrote here humans and souls, because every human has one soul. And okay, except see here, this is wrong. I wrote humans and then soul, and then 12 souls is a monad, 12 monad souls is an avatar soul, 12 avatar souls is a rishi soul. But there is no difference between human and soul. That's the thing. Human is the body. Human is the body, and the soul is the light in the body, the life in the body, or that which there are many life forms in the body that have their own quantum again. You know, all the life forms that come together in the body, and of course even a single atom already has its quantum of light. Everything is made out of light, densified and bent into all the different densities and all the different colors and shapes. However, the structure of matter is all in the same principle. And then denser and denser and denser and denser. Darker and darker and darker and darker. However, a life form already says it in the word. A life form is a organizing principle. So the overall organizing principle that animates this body and makes this body what it is my soul. And once the soul leaves the body, it then falls to the greater organizing principle, which is the body of the earth, which also has a soul. The soul also, the earth is also a being, and has a soul. And so the body, in essence, anyways, is made out of the earth's body. But it is organized according to my soul. And the soul expresses itself in this density. But that doesn't mean that the human is a different being than the soul. The soul is in this density, asleep to itself to a certain degree, and that's what we call the human being. Is the asleep part is the part of the soul that is asleep. And what does that mean, asleep? Asleep means it is not aware of itself as a soul, and it believes it is a human being that has a soul, but it doesn't see the oneness there yet. And to believe you are a human being is to believe that you are your story, that you are the memory of who you are, so that you are an image, that you are an idea, because the story only exists within the mind. You know, where's the story here and now? It's an imagination. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It doesn't say that, all these things didn't happen to the body, and all these ideas weren't going on in the mind, and all these beliefs weren't believed. Yes, it's a record. It's a record of all that. And if there is an identification with I am the record, then that's an identification with an image of yourself rather than with your true being, which is the light that animates this body and the life and the breath that makes everything work together here and create this experience, allow for this experience to be happening through this body, and that's the soul. Okay. Yeah, so when I say also infinity portal in the heart, it's that the quantum of light that is the God spark. It's also called the God spark, because light is light. It's the unbent light, and then it gets bent into the forms, and depending on where you're looking from, it gets bent into or unbent. It gets untangled, and it awakes to all the greater and greater collectives, all the way up this light collective tree. And now we come to this painting. Okay, this is all one light. I put it on the vertical and on the horizontal line. And so I don't know where they get born. I don't know, like, how, when a soul is born, is it always going to be a baby soul and always going to start on the same level? I don't think so. I don't think that a fresh soul always incarnates or gets born into the same density. I think that, but as I said, that's a question now that I have, and I'm putting it out there, and it'll come to me. So, but let's just take this one scenario where a baby soul gets born, and usually what happens is we descend. So I'm kind of like seeing it like this. We descend, our consciousness gets denser and denser and denser and denser, because the soul, every time it gets more courageous too, you know. It always is like going into deeper and deeper and deeper waters. But never so far, it will never say, oh, I'm going to jump in there, even though it's like panic afraid of it. It will always just go to its own limitations, where it says, oh, you know, I'm going to go until there, because I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to grow, because from the soul's perspective, it's all about growth, and it's all about self-experience, and it's all really, really exciting. So it goes down, denser and denser and denser, and what this is a threshold, is the threshold to where we say fallen, to where the Merkaba, the vehicle of the soul that dials itself into this space-time vantage point reality, which I talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to repeat that, what that is. And the Merkaba, I'm just going to say star tetrahedron, and the top spin and the bottom spin. And the bottom spin is 1/3 of the top spin, and the bottom spin is what keeps us grounded, what keeps us in the density. And the top spin is always wanting to ascend. The bottom spin always holding us down, you know. And that's kind of like also you know, the spiritual muscles. What is that? It's all the resistance, all the conflicts, all the difficulties, the negativities, the densities, the contractions, the traumas, all of that we come up against, which create a burden and that we have to overcome. But we never, I don't really like the word overcome, because when you walk over something, you don't go through it. And the only way to overcome is to go right through it, to live it, to go through the middle. That's the way to overcome anything, is to experience it completely, and you become traumatized, you become densified, you become contracted, and then you open up again. But this opening can only happen through the heart of where that trauma happened. By re-experiencing it, the same feelings that we hold down, because the trauma is when something overwhelms us, that at that point we do not have the capacity to process that amount of energy, and we come to it through a perspective that hurts us, because we are at that density. We don't see it from the perspective of God, let's say, from the overall perspective, or from a higher perspective where we see that we chose that. Because when a soul densifies, gets born, what happens is, so it incarnates, or it also descends, which is it takes on a denser body, it takes on a denser body. With that, it has to forget. It has to kind of like or fragment itself, or deassociate itself from the greater part of itself. That doesn't mean that it is truly disconnected. In the heart, everything is connected. The whole universe, all hearts are connected. That's the thing, because they all go to the same light, to the same still point, to the quantum. The quantum is one. That's why it's called the quantum. The quantum is one. It's one light, one source, one consciousness. And that's where the heart leads to. And I say the soul lives in the heart because this comes through the heart. This is right here. Yeah? And so as we go into the heart, the first thing we'll connect with is our soul, and then ever greater souls. So these greater souls, and then eventually God, the quantum, the one light. And that's why I say infinity portal, because the one light is everywhere and nowhere. So that also means that in our heart we're connected to all life forms in all parallel universes. Even if it's because everyone anyways is on their very specific timeline and in their very specific universe, version of life, version of universe. Everyone is on I talked about timelines in a previous video, and yet it all comes out of this one light, love, God. It's also love. It's also love, and this can also be explained, although the explanation can always just be a pointing to it, and the understanding can only be an overall within that realm of understanding, but it's never it itself. It can only point to it, and then through your own experience, hearing this pointing, you're like, oh, okay, I get it, but you can't really put it into words. So why is it love? Why is light equals love? And you don't even have to go that, light, since it's a portal, it's like God shines through, all these quantums, all these individual life forms. It's everywhere. Yeah, so we are connected to all life forms because we share We are one light. We share that. So we may not share on the physical level. Of course, we don't share this body. We don't have to share. We don't have to be a monad, so we don't have to be part of the same collective as an avatar, or even as a rishi. We don't have to be part of the same collective, and yet all rishi, all hearts, all atoms. You see, that's the thing. It's like I talk about life forms and hearts that are at the center of all life forms. They may not look like a human heart, obviously, but even when we say animals that don't have a heart, they have another form of a heart. We all share that, and we share it with all life forms, and all atoms have also this quantum there's a portal. And where do these portals in the center of all atoms, where does it lead? What is it connected to? Where does it lead? It all leads to the zero. That's what we call the 0 point. It all leads to this light, and that's why every atom, if you would look at it from a certain perspective, you could see it's like a tiny little light. It's that portal at the center of every torus. It's a toroidal field. Now we're back to the toroidal field. That is which is also you can see actually the atom itself. As below, so above. As in the small, so in the great. As inside, so outside. The atom itself is a toroidal field. And there's always this center of light in every toroidal field. And this center of light, this light, is a portal. And gravity is this... okay, I'll go into the heart, this whole heart field a little more in another video. I just wanted to, because I mentioned love, how is it love? And now we come back to the heart field, because it's because love is all-inclusive. Love is this feeling when there is no resistance. When you see it from the perspective of God, from the highest perspective, you see everything is done and exists because of, for, and in love. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing why. Why? Yeah. Why? It comes from here. It's this, and you can't explain this. It's to experience yourself, but of course the mind fascinating all of this other stuff that comes out of it, but the real drive is always love. Is to feel yourself, to experience yourself, and this experience can only happen through the heart. Okay. Okay, now we come now we come past the threshold here. Now we're talking about this threshold of what that means. Because, okay, so we get denser and denser and denser. Now we come to this point. This is the threshold that we call the fall. The fallen angels, fallen souls. And we know about Lucifer, the fallen angel of God. So what happened? And I have talked about this also a lot, but I don't know where that threshold is. The only threshold I know about in technicality is when the Merkaba becomes Christed, at Christ consciousness, when the Merkaba has ascended to Christ consciousness. There's an actual measurement there. We can actually measure at what spin ratio and what spin velocity Christ consciousness is attained and available. the top and the bottom spin of the Merkaba. And so since we have that threshold, I just wrote, because I don't know at what level here, all I know in the system is up to Rishi and past that. Since that's 15th dimension, there's nothing past that. So this is obviously kind of, I don't know where Christ consciousness comes in at this system. I'm pretty sure that an avatar already is at Christ consciousness. That's just my sense. So I still have to become clear. This is just a question of language. This is just coming from different cultural, intellectual, cultural knowledge backgrounds, but it's pointing to the same thing. So I wrote it up here, and then I wrote Lucifer down here as the principle. So since we have, let's say somewhere in here, there is you're at that certain, once you reach that density, you're at Christ consciousness. So that also means that there must be, since we have a threshold here, there must be. See, I didn't paint it in here. I just wrote it up here. Christ, yeah. This is the ascension, kind of like the ascension principle, because that's one thing we know is that the Christ did, or the one being that got so famous for being at that level of consciousness that he actually ascended his body was Jesus the Christ. And since we have that threshold, there has to be also a threshold at what point do we call it, okay, they're fallen. Their Merkabas have fallen. And what I'm getting is that it's exactly the opposite. Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. Is when it spins at the opposite of the Christ. So that would be, I'm just getting this. So that would be that the bottom spin is 3 times as fast as the top spin at that point, and then there's more exact numbers to it. I'm not going to, because I talked about it. I'm not going to bore you with details when I've already talked about it a lot of times, previously. So that would be then the Antichrist. That's the fallen Merkaba. Merkaba is the part of our light body. That's the star tetrahedron. That's the vehicle. Because then we also have the aura, which is like looks like the aura is the toroidal shape, and the Merkaba, the vehicle that keeps it all together, and that dials us in to our reality. That's the star tetrahedron, spinning opposite directions, top and down. And the velocity is exactly anti to the Christ, to the Christ Merkaba is the Antichrist, and that's when they fall. That's what they call fallen beings. And so there is this possibility that we descend, also our solar system going farther and farther away from its greatest light source that it is orbiting around. And now I am not sure about that, what is the sun that our sun is orbiting around. I've never heard that exactly, but it has to be. What I have heard is that, and there is science behind this, and it makes a lot of sense, is that our sun is a binary sun. All suns are binary suns, and this is also why I come up with that there is a great possibility that all souls are binary souls. It is with Sirius, the sun of the star system Sirius. Yeah. I don't know if it has a name or if it's just called Sirius, and it's a binary system. What does that mean, binary system? Binary system is not the same as there is a sun, like the great central sun in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy. There is a great central sun, and all solar systems revolve around that great central sun. Binary is when they go like this. They revolve around each other. They're like in a orbit. Orbits are always elliptical that cross. But of course, they never bump into each other. But there is, since it's binary, there will be this time when they're farthest away from each other, and then there will be this time when they're closest together to each other. So there's that going on, there's this going on, and then there is the solar system around, our solar system around a sun. Now, whether that is the grand central sun or whether it's another system that in itself is, wheels within wheels, turning around the grand central sun, that I don't know. Why am I saying that? Oh, because it's always about the cycles going away from light into the dark and then coming back to the light. And this is just everywhere you look, this principle shows itself. Falling asleep, waking up. So we densify, we get born, the soul is born, densified, and then we reascend. We reemerge. So let's say a soul is born on the fourth dimension, and then it densifies into the third, has a long time in the third, and then it reemerges. And what does that mean? The reemergence, the ascension, What does that mean? It means ever greater consciousness. Waking up to, okay, where are we here? Waking up to this, yeah? Waking up to the collectives, the ever greater souls that are within the souls, all the way back to that collective, to the Rishi. And then maybe when the Rishi has woken up to all the, because in the end it's all souls are a soul collective. And all souls, that means all life forms. That means all life forms. That's a heck of a lot. and then there's a reemergence into all light. And this, and I wrote here explosion, because this happens as an explosion. So that's also how suns are born. What makes the sun, I believe that's what makes the sun, is that this reemergence into the light, this full enlightenment, this full capacity of, and then of course there are small suns and huge suns. I mean, already in our heart, that you could call that a sun, because for the universe inside of us, it is the grand central sun, is our heart. The light in our heart, the portal in the light coming out of our heart, the soul, is the sun of our universe inside. But then there are also portals within each chakra, but they're not all enlightened, they're not all awakened. So depending on how awakened they are, there will be more suns within this universe inside. And so to the degree of awakening, that's how a sun gets created as a planet. So how enlightened, at some stage of enlightenment, the planet explodes into a sun. A sun is born. Isn't that a huge explosion? Yeah. So now the fallen, however, when a soul goes so far into density that it crosses this threshold, so it goes so far into negativity, fear. Okay, this is love. Oh, I was still not, did I explain? Well, when there is no resistance, all that we are, shining through a vessel, shining through a form, and we feel in love, we feel connected to all life. And as we are connected to all life, as we wake up to ourselves, as we feel this connection to who we are at an ever deeper self, ever deeper soul level, ever wider consciousness within us that comes all the way through here. It's like coming through, you know. That's what the feeling is. In these bodies, in our hearts, that's what we call love. It's all inclusive, because there's also an understanding that we are one, and that with the wider consciousness and the feeling of connectedness, you can see and you understand someone that is in more density, more believing their mind, more believing their thoughts, and there's compassion, there's understanding. With the understanding comes compassion. And all of this is what we call love in all its different forms. That's what it's all about, is love. It's this connection. Now what happens at this point is that love cannot be experienced anymore. That's why I painted this black, more black, but you can still see that there is still the light inside, but the heart is so dense, and the consciousness is so dense that there is not that experience anymore of connectedness. And once this threshold is, the Antichrist is born, once this threshold is stepped over, and that's what you call fallen. Ascension is too far. So the closer way to God is this way. And this is also, now this becomes Lucifer here, you know, like the Rishi of the darkness. I can't be Rishi though. How can it be Rishi? No, it's not, doesn't have that, obviously doesn't have that consciousness. You cannot have that consciousness because this doesn't know itself. This doesn't know itself. This is illusion. Right here, this is a land of illusion, and because it's in fear, it doesn't see the truth of life anymore. It can't see it, it can't experience it, it can't feel it. So now the main attractor is fear. I should have written up here love and down here fear. Main attractor is fear, but this is not conscious. It's also dim in consciousness, which doesn't mean that there are not beings within this field that are highly intelligent. But it's a different kind of intelligence. It's not the intelligence of the heart. It's not inclusive intelligence. It's all me, and I am separate, and I need to survive. And it's me against everyone else. And the only collectives they form, it's purely for their own benefit, out of survival. It's not out of love. So they only collaborate. Well, and then this is also the tree. Oh, this is the part I need to also explain. This tree is, I think I painted it. You can see it. They're not connected. At least that's not their experience. And it's not like this where the soul wakes up to itself ever more. Yeah. This, it falls ever more asleep to itself, gets ever more fearful, and needs more force, because this is power, this is force. Because they don't have power, because all the power is the light. Then, as the more the more the sense of power is lost, the more the hunger for it. But it cannot be gained. Power is who you are. Power is your heart. Power is your love. Power is God through you. That's the only power there is. Yes, all other is illusion. And so because they're in the land of illusion, they need to use force to get light. All beings need light to live. That's essentially, you know, and that's also why the more the compensation with food, you know, for example, because we could already potentially, if we were at that level of consciousness, we could live from the light within, and which we will do at some point. That's what the more ascended beings, they can live just from the light within and the light from the sun. And otherwise, we need to take the light from the food. And, you know, that makes the difference in food, is how much light can be held. And that has to do with the crystalline structure, with the water in the food. With how the water in the food is structured, built. So how high is the crystalline structure in a food? How fractal? Yeah, exactly. How fractal is a food? The more fractal a food or we are, or a life form is, the more light it can hold. Because fractality is also that's the thing with the heart. The heart, now we're going all over the place. Oh. I don't know why the fan is on. Let me see if I can turn it off.